How you doing, guys? This is Josh from Kingdom DTF. Welcome to the channel one more time. Thank you for being a subscriber here, guys. With this community, I appreciate it so much. And if you're new to the channel, go ahead, subscribe, hit that like button, and be part of this community here of DTF Printing here at Kingdom DTF. All right, guys. So this video it's just to announce a few things that we're working out. We upgrade our subscription box a little bit to reflect the changes that is going on the market. Also, our regular supply box, we just add the black powder because some of you have been asking for that. So now it's going to include that as well. So this video, guys, is going to be a little bit long, but I think it's going to be interested how you're going to learn about the CADlink software. They did about 2 weeks ago a free webinar, and some of you attend to that, but other people missed that. And also some people don't know about this webinar that happens, and they actually got it on their YouTube channel, but no one go over there to see it. So, or they cannot see it somehow. I don't know why. So I go to put that webinar here in this video so you can watch it. Is going to go in depth with a lot of stuff that's going on with the CADlink software for DTF printing. Okay. So just stay tuned, guys, for this in this channel, because we're going to go. We're planning a road trip to Georgia. We're going to see a few stuff over there. We're planning, to bring the 24 inches printers, but we need to do something first before that. Also, we're planning to bring premium inks that they're made here in the USA, so that way that it's going to be a high quality inks for your prints, because I know that a lot of people have been having issues with a white ink that is not coming anymore, like solid white or opaque white. Okay, and for that reason is this webinar. So this webinar is playing a little bit of that, that you can adjust the color in the software. You can bump a little bit of the colors to make the art, the design pop up more, like my background here. And once you press it, also of that. So after the webinar, if you got any question, guys, just leave the comments below this video, okay? And or if you have a specific question that is for software, you can contact the CADlink and they're going to answer you back or anything like that. Now, if you want to purchase the software, it's going to be through a dealer, through a supplier like us, Kingdom DTF. Okay, so you can also contact me. Just you put your message, hey, I would like to get the software because I like it, or the feature that the software got is enormous. Is it's really nice, to be honest. They got a rasterization, knockout blacks, the software support transparency. You can play around with so many features in this software that I think if you're looking for something that is more professional printing, is going to be a good fit for you, this software. Also, when we put in place the 24 inches printers, we're thinking maybe by itself or maybe with a powder shaker. We're working also on that to have the CADlink support that printer. So it's a good idea that if you already have CADlink, or if you want to try the free trial, it's for 15 days that you can download from our website completely free. And then you upgrade to the 24 inches with and you decide to go with the CADlink. You're going to have knowledge about the software as well. Okay, so I leave you to these guys. Enjoy the free webinar that CADlink did for everyone to learn about the software and also DTF printing. Okay, enjoy.
the EMEA sales manager for CADlink, and this session will be covering our Digital Factory version 10 direct to film edition. Now we do have two versions of our product. We have our desktop edition, which supports A4 to A2 size devices. And then we also have our DTF or direct to film edition, which not only supports the A4 to A2 devices, but we also have support for different Chinese printers that our dealers are carrying. So with that, we are continually adding to our driver library, slowly but surely. Some of the issues that we run into are related to the ink and how they jet through the printers, finding the right dot sizes that are relevant for DTF printing. So we are working on drivers. We don't have a driver for your printer ready just yet. Be patient with us, and hopefully we'll have a driver that does work with your device. Okay. All right, so we will get started. Again, my name is Rick Rivera, and the driver that we've got installed right now is our Epson L1800 driver. That's what I've got here in my office. So we're going to be using this machine to do our demo. But typically when you install a new device, okay, when we install a new device or when you install the software, the first thing that it goes through is the queue wizard. Okay, this is to configure and set up the queue. And so we go through here, we click on install printer, and it will give us a list of the printers that we can install. And if it's a supported printer, meaning that our source driver is the 1800, for instance, but this driver also works with other models such as the R1390, the 1400. So the driver will show up here, the primary driver, and any supported devices will show up under our supported printers list. Okay. Now, obviously, I have all the drivers that we currently have built installed, so that's why I don't have anything here in my list. Once you install the driver, you'd select the port that you're going to use, and then you would click next, and it would then install the printer as well as the port on your system. Now, if you've installed the trial version and then you upgrade to the licensed product, if you didn't work with a printer prior, it's probably safe to say that your port setting could have been set to either file or to null, and you may have issues trying to connect to your printer. If you do have issues where you're trying to connect to your printer and you can't get the connection, you always want to go into the queue, manage queues, and in the manage queues section, this is where you can, excuse me, this is where you can go in and set up your port. Okay, so if you're on a TCP/IP network, Wi-Fi or hardwired connection, you're going to use the TCP/IP. If the printer is on the network and connected, our TCP/IP connection will sniff out the printer and it will show up here on the list. So then you can just select that printer and click OK. If you are connected via USB, you want to make sure you're not selecting this port here, printer_USB 001. It should show up with your model number, okay, _USB whatever number, okay. This tells us that it is finding it. Now, if you're not finding the printer on the list, or it's not showing up similar to what we have here, double check your cable connections. You may want to disconnect, reconnect, especially if you're on a laptop. Some laptops have the USB ports where they go to sleep, And if the USB port goes to sleep, sometimes that'll lose the connection, not only to the printer, but also to our dongle. So if you're running into weird issues where, you know, the laptop's not seeing a dongle, if you unplug it, plug it back in, it should be fine, should re-recognize it. That's a setting within the laptop that you can actually disable the sleep mode, okay? So that's the section where we can install and configure a driver. Now in the queue, this is where we can also set up additional queues, okay? So for instance, if I had, say, the L1800, which I have here, and I want to set up one queue to only do A4 size prints, and I want to set up a second queue for only A3 size prints, so I don't have to go back and forth changing the page size. I can do that. I can simply create a copy of this queue, and I'll call this A3. Click OK. And if I close this window, now I've got two queues here. I've got this one that I could set for A3, as well as the other one that I can set for, A4, for instance. So this could actually set to A4. And if I open that queue, I could just change the name to A4. Okay. Hi, Lisa. Can you shut your video off, please? Thank you. If you could disable your video. All right, so this is how we can set up additional queues. Now, this is a unique thing about our software is you can set up queues so that way you can automate some of your workflow. You can set up a queue for light colored garments where you only have those print modes. You could also set up another queue for dark garments. You could set up another queue for rasterization, another one for stripes, another one for holes. So this is a very unique tool that we have with the queues, okay? If I disable that, we'll go back to our single queue here again, okay? All right, so the layout of our program, just to kind of give you the gist of how we lay everything out. The left column here is where we import our files, okay? So as far as file import, we do support all kind of standard bitmap and vector formats. Okay, so BMP, JPEG, TIFF, GIF, EPS, AI native, PDF. The only format we don't support natively would be Corel CDL format, or the Corel formats. But from Corel, you can always export as a EPS, PNG, PDF, what have you. Okay. So again, this left side is where you can import your files. So as you can see, I've got a lot of files imported into my queue here. The right side is your preview window. Okay. And if I zoom out, you'll notice that I have multiple pages here on my preview window. This you can also change by going to view and switching to single page mode. And if I go up here and select to fit, I can go through, and if I select my image, it'll show up here on my page, okay, as I'm working with it. Okay. So again, we can go back here to multi-page view, and I'll go to width, and there we go. All right. Now in the preview, you can also set grid view. Okay, so you can set up a grid view. You've got your zoom tools. You can zoom to fit, to the width, or to selected area. The bottom left corner here is your reserved area. Okay, the reserved area is for your jobs that have already been printed. Okay, so if I go ahead and set my port to null. Okay, so in here, if I go in and print this file, for instance, Hi, Lisa. If you can do me a favor and disable your video. All right, so at this point, when you've printed the file, it will show up here in your reserved area, okay? So with this, we can go back, we can reprint it, we can bring it back up to the queue, what have you. We also have the browse feature. So this is kind of a two-way window here. So in the browse feature, we can browse to where our image files are, and then we can just simply drag and drop those into our work area here, okay? So you can use this one of two ways, okay? And then over here in the lower right corner is where you'll find your print modes, okay? Now the print modes are going to be pretty much printer specific. So if you've used our software before, everything in the interface is going to look identical to our DTG product, our UV product, our sublimation product, our print product, okay? The only difference is going to be the print driver, a couple of options or a couple of modules might be different, and the print modes, okay? The print modes are going to be printer specific, okay? So for the L1800, we do have some print modes set up here for light garments, which we labeled as color. And then we have some that are labeled black. Now, the ones that are labeled black have the black knockout already applied to that print mode. So when you import an image using that print mode, it will automatically do the black knockout, okay? Now, if you're using one of these colored print modes, okay, so similar to what I have here, I can still do the black knockout, okay? I can simply right click on that job, go to my production plugins, and I have my black knockout and I can knock out the black. We'll go into that in a minute, okay? Now in this lower right corner, again, you have your print modes, easily selectable from the drop down, and I'll show you how you can create additional print modes. You also have your copies feature, okay? So in here we can select copies, and if we're working with copies, when you select copies, you can either plug in the values here, or you can just simply drag the sliders here. So if I go ahead and set this to 8, I can drop that, bring that in. Okay. Now, so that's the max I can get, and then I can go ahead and center that. Okay, so you've got your position here. You can center on page, center horizontally, fit to page width or height, fit to page, or we could center to the top of the page. Okay, so those are the copies. Okay, we also have the crop feature. Okay, so if we wanted to crop an image out, let me go here. Okay, if we wanted to crop an image, I can select that image, crop it. I could take my corners here, crop my image, and click create, and that will crop my image. And let me go back to single view. This is a little easier. Makes it a little easier to work with. All right, so we could go to the crop feature here. Okay, so we can crop it. We also have, using this feature, we also have step and repeat. So if you have an image here and you want to repeat the pattern. Hi, Jan, can you go ahead and disable your video, please? All right, so if I wanted to do a design and I wanted a repeatable pattern, I can select the pattern here, click on crop. I'm sorry, not crop. We'll click on copies and then click on copies again, and this will bring up our step and repeat tool. Now in the step and repeat tool, you have the pattern style. Okay, so I'll go ahead and select alternate row offset. And in here, we can create our pattern. We can also create our offset. Okay, so we can blend these in, or we can space these out. Okay. So if I wanted to get these to kind of give me a nice clean overlap, I can do something like this. Right? Do something like that. Go in, see how many more we can add in there. Click apply, and that'll create that pattern for me. Okay, and then I can go ahead, center that, and now I've got a pattern design. Okay, so that's our step and repeat. Okay, so these are tools that you have here within the window. Okay, we also have our color adjust tool. Okay, so our color adjust, we'll use this one here, and I will duplicate this. And go back in here. Let's go back down here. All right, so we've got my image here. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that one again. All right, so we'll go down here, and I've got my two images here. Go ahead and resize those. Okay, and what we have is we have our color adjust tools. Okay, so as you're working with files, if you need to make some adjustments to the color, you can do so easily without having to go in and touch the actual CMYK or the ICC profile, the curve. Okay, so we could do that by going into the color adjust, and in the color adjust, we can make our adjustments to the file. Okay, so if I wanted to make this darker, I can go in here, bump up all these values, okay, the same values, and go ahead and click OK. Now, if I regenerate this preview, now in our RIP, it doesn't preview live automatically, so you do have to regenerate the preview. But as you can see here, we've got a darker image. Now, this method can be very useful, especially if you're doing dark garments, because you are laying that white, a heavier white overprint. What can happen is when you go to press, you could lose some of the vibrancy of the color. Okay, so using the color adjust, you can actually kind of compensate for that by using the color adjust tool. Okay, we also have the saturation tool, the brightness tool, contrast, as well as chroma. Okay, the chroma is another tool that you can use to kind of brighten up images. So if I set these back to 0, click OK, and regenerate the preview. Okay, let me bring this one down so it's a little, there we go. Okay, so it brings me back the image the same as what I had. So if we go in, if I bump up the saturation, okay, saturation I typically don't like to use. And the reason for that, you'll see here in a minute, is it will actually have a tendency to shift the colors. So what you end up with is this kind of weird color shift. And there we go. So as you can see with the saturation, now some people might like it. This one's not too bad. If I set the saturation up even higher, it will end up just totally ruining the color. Okay. And then we have the chroma. So we'll drop that down. The chroma will also do kind of brighten your colors as well, but not to the extent that saturation does. So it will bring in some detail. And then we have the merge feature. Typically, when you have rendering intent, you have photo and graphics. The photo is going to give you kind of those realistic colors, a little more detail, but you don't get kind of that punch in the colors. And then you have the graphics mode, which tends to have a little bit more punch in the colors in some cases. Now, depending on how the ICC is made as well. Now, we have an option here where in photo mode, we can kind of tweak the driver, or the print mode, I should say, to get the best of both worlds, okay? So in my testing and profiling of the 1800, I found that this option here, this value of 60 and 10 chroma, actually kind of gave me the best of both worlds. That gave me a good bright image, but also gave me the detail that I want. You can also control your max white ink in this area with the slider. You can also control the choke. If you're not familiar what choke is, this is for your white, so that way it's not poking out of the edge of the image. So this is done via pixels, okay? So right now we have it set to choke 3 pixels of the white into the image, okay? So that way the white doesn't poke out when we go to transfer it. You can also set your strength for the white under black. Now, if you're doing white or colored shirts, you want your black to be nice and rich, you know, nice, good black. So typically you can use 0% white under the black, and the powder should still stick and transfer over, okay? Now, if you need to add white, you can drop this down, and you can add any percentage of white that you want to that, okay? And then we have our holes, okay? Our holes, we call it holes. In the DTF world, they call it half toning, okay? So I'm going to show you how we do that as well. Let me go ahead and cancel here for now. Now, any changes you make to an image, if you want to revert back to the default setting, we have an option to where you can remove the effect or the plugin effects. So we actually have a really nice way of getting rid of that, okay? So that we have here, so you have your copies, your crop, your duplicate. We can also do nesting of images, okay? So if we wanted to nest multiple files, okay, let me get rid of these two. Okay, if I wanted to nest multiple files, I'll go ahead and select the files I have here. Okay, so I want to nest all of these particular images. So in doing so, I can go and select this first page, right click on it, click on Auto Nest. And this will, it's actually going to take everything that's imported and nest it. So if we zoom in here, it'll nest that out for us. Now, if I wanted, say, 2 copies of this image and maybe 2 copies of this one, okay, as you can see, it's not nested anymore. But if I go back in and do my nesting again, okay, it'll go back through and re-nest those images. Okay, so that's how you can do your nesting. Very simple, easy to do. Just want to make sure that your images are sized to be able to fit on that page. Okay, let's go back in here. Let me get my samples here. There we go. Okay, so we can go ahead and bring in multiple images again. All right, so some of the tools we have in our RIP. Okay, now under the Q menu, we do have a way that you can calibrate the amount of white ink that you're using. This allows you to save on ink cost, okay? And the tool we have is what we call Set Max White Ink, okay? So in the Set Max White Ink, I can go in here, specify an image, and I'll use, let's see here, we'll go with one of these here, PNGs. No, we'll use this one. Okay, so we'll go ahead and select the PNG. Go to next. Our starting value is at 50, max value at 100, increments of 10. So if we click on Print Max White Ink chart, what this is going to do is it's going to take that image, create 6 different images with varying levels of white ink. Okay, what you would do is you would take that, print it. What happened here? It's still trying to nest for some reason. There we go. Okay, and let's see that that came out a little too large, so I can delete those. Go back here, go back, and I'll change the size of my image, and we'll print that again. So again, you can always go back and forth in the RIP easily. You don't have to delete the files and, you know, do all this. And so there we go. So we've got our 6 files, and we'll go here, single page view. All right, so we've got the 6 files here, and each one has a different value of white ink. So if we go ahead and select that, and we'll go ahead and rip this. Okay, while that's ripping, it's going to rip each one, so this takes a little bit. Now, the reason for this white ink adjustment is we don't know what kind of white ink DTF customers are using. Okay, there are different ink manufacturers on the market. Even the profiles that are being created, we create the profiles based on the ink we have in-house from our distributors. Okay, profiling the DTF market is very difficult because of that. There's different inks in the market. Not all inks are the same. Not all inks jet the same, and not all white inks are the same. So some inks have more pigment in it, others do not. So what ends up happening is you may have a white that prints really good, and you may have another white, a manufacturer out there that sells white that's not as strong or doesn't have the opacity. So in our profile, it's quite possible that you need to go in and make some adjustment. Okay, but the profiles we offer should give you that basis, should give you that good start to start with. And in some cases, you may be happy with the results. Now, once I've ripped it, now the cool thing about our rip is that once I've ripped it, I don't have to print this right now. I can actually view my rip data. If I right click on it, click view raw data, okay, this will actually pull up the data that's going to be sent to the printer. Now, don't confuse this for a pre-flight tool. This is not a pre-flight tool by any means. Okay, so the color that you see here is not going to be what the machine is going to print. Okay, this is more for positioning. Also, I use it, personally, I use it mainly to see where my white is going to print, and also when I make the white adjustment. So if I deselect all here, select only my white channels. Okay, now this particular printer only has 2 white channels. If you have a 600 or an 800, those machines have 4 channels, so you would actually have 4 whites here. Now up here, we have this option, view all colors as black. And when you do that, you'll notice that now, I've got different levels of black or I'm sorry, of white that's printed. Okay, so at 50%, this is 50% white, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. Okay, so as you're working with the product, you can calibrate your white to suit your need. Now, in this particular case, okay, if we look down here, 90 and 100 are very close. Okay. Oops. Okay, so if we drop this back down, okay, 90 and 100 are very close. 90 is still not pure, but this will give us that pure white for our white base, okay, for our white overprint, okay. But for instance, on light garments, you really don't need 100% white. For light garments, I mean, you really could get away with just 50% white or even 60% white, or possibly even less, okay? Just to have that opacity under lighter colors. So if you're doing prints with, you know, pastel colors, things like that, you do want to use some white as a base. So that way, when you go to put the powder on it, the powder actually sticks, okay? At least in my testing, that's what I've run into. Obviously, if you're doing dark garments, you do want a nice, thick white overprint over your colors to have that opacity, okay? So when you go to press it, you don't lose much of the color. Okay? So again, the quality of the inks is very important as well. Okay, so this is how we can adjust our white. Now, once I've found the adjustment I like, and I say, well, you know, I like 90%. When I click next, I can save this setting. I can apply it to the queue. I can apply it to my print mode, or I can create a new print mode. I always recommend to create a new print mode. And the reason for that is you may have other work that can use this default print mode, okay? And maybe you have other work that requires more white. So in this case, I could create a new print mode. And if you notice over here in my print mode list, it adds that to my list. Okay, so I have that available to me now. Okay. So just as the screen fits here, we don't have to go into other menus and things like that or other tabs to get to tools. We can get to most of the stuff directly from our file menu. Okay. We also have a jobs menu. Now in the jobs menu, this is where you will find your tools. And let me just go in here and add some of these images back in. Okay. So under the jobs, okay, we can access the color adjust from here as well. So it's the same color adjust that we have here. Okay. Our print, our rip, our save as. Okay. So once you've printed a file, you can actually save that file as an archive. So a good example would be if you're doing a design for, say, a studio or a company or a team, something like that, a club, and that club comes to you today for 10 shirts, 10 transfers, and 3 months down the road, they come to you for 10 more transfers. Now, once you printed that job the first time, you can actually save that as an archive, and you can save that file. Now, the beauty is saving that file, it's going to save the print mode, the size, everything associated to that job. So you can actually import that job back in and it'll have all the settings that you had 3 months ago. And then you could just take it, import it, and then print it, send it for print. Okay. So that's a unique tool that we offer that some of the other RIPs do not. Okay. Again, the generate preview, if you make any adjustments and want to see what the adjustment did, you can generate the preview. We also include GIMP. with our RIP solution. If you're not familiar with what GIMP is, okay, GIMP is an image processing program. It's open source, and it's very similar to Photoshop. Okay, so when you have GIMP, you really have no need for Photoshop. So if I wanted to add text to this image, for instance, okay, I can go in here. I can add in my text. I'll go in here. We'll drop in black text. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and position that. Right? So we can add in text directly from the RIP and not have to exit the RIP, create the file, export it, and import it in. We can manage that directly from our RIP. And the beauty of GIMP, and this is custom built to work with our digital factory product, you'll notice here we have this option that says CADlink. And if we click send to CADlink, this will take the job and it will send it back to our queue. Okay, so it'll send it back to our queue, and the original file is still here. Okay, so I can take the original file is still there. Okay, so I can work with that original file. If I wanted to do another name, something like that, I can do that. Okay, but there you have it. Okay, so that's GIMP. Okay, so GIMP is your image processing program. So again, if you wanted to add text or you wanted to edit your images, you can use it. You know, if you're paying a subscription for Photoshop, here's your chance to save some money on subscription costs, and use, you know, what we give you free with the RIP. We do have a module, an optional module, which is called Fluid Mask. Okay, now Fluid Mask is used for cleaning up more detailed backgrounds. Okay, so for instance, this particular image. Okay, now if I wanted to clean the background on this image, I could do it in Photoshop using the magic wand tool and some of the filters and tools that Photoshop offers. But to be honest, it is a pain to keep all of the detail in her hair. Okay, all this detail back here, that's quite difficult to keep. So what we offer is an optional module, which is called Fluid Mask. Okay, if we launch Fluid Mask, okay, this gives you kind of a paint by numbers type feature. So I can go in here, I can click in some of these areas. Okay, to kind of get rid of most of the background. And then what we do is we go here to image, autofill with keep. We can do our blend. And in here, where I have kind of these lighter areas, I can go in with my Fluid Mask tool and I can go in and fill these areas. So go in here, fill this, done, and do our cutout. So if I wanted to knock out that background, I can do it this way. Okay, so it's processing the mask at this point. And there you have it. Okay, obviously there's some stuff here that I could go in and clean up, but we'll leave it at like so. If I click save and apply, again, Fluid Mask is tied to the RIP, so it's going to go ahead and bring it right back into the queue. Apply the settings, and it will end up knocking out that background. Okay, so we'll go ahead, we'll get back to that one here in a sec. And there you have it. So we've knocked out that background now. on the image. Okay, so that's fluid mask. And again, this is fluid mask is an optional module. It's not included. So at this point, if you notice, we kept all the detail in her hair in the background here. Okay, so it's actually a very powerful tool that customers can use. Okay, we also have our supersize image filter. Okay, this is our resampling tool. And to be honest, I love the sampling tool. I think it's better than what you can get out of Photoshop any day. So what this does, especially if you're working in the DTF market, you're probably going to get a lot of images that are downloaded off the internet, sent via WhatsApp, email, what have you, and they're going to be low-res images. Now, if I were to print this particular image, it would print pixelated around the edges. So what Supersize does, it allows me to input a new resolution. Typically 300 should be enough. Shouldn't really need to go beyond that. But what it does is it will clean up the image. So as I move the image, you can see when it's refreshing how clean you can get it. So like right here where the teeth are, it's all pixelated and now it's nice and clean. Also on the edge of the graphic. Okay, so on the black edge here of the image and the edge of the water here, okay, gives you that nice clean edge to work with, okay? Now the supersize image, once we've done this, once we've applied it, you cannot export it. I always get that question, can I export it afterwards? No, you cannot. You can only use it and within the rip. So you really can't export the file afterwards, okay? Another feature we do have some easy adjustment tools. Now this particular image, if you're looking at the image, right, it does look like it has a black background here, okay? However, if I were to go into my Knock Me Blackout tool, you'll notice that the black is still there. Actually, it's more of a dark gray, not a true black, because down here, it's still showing up as gray. It should show as white, meaning that it's completely knocked out. Now, we do have a tool to clean up the black, okay? So that way you get a nice cleanup when you're going to put this, say, on a dark shirt. So if you select the image, go to our easy adjustments, we have a lot of these cleanup tools for white as well as black. So if I select the cleanup black, this will give me a nice richer black. So that way, when I do go to my Knock Me Blackout, you'll notice now that it did knock out the black. So now we have that transparency. Okay, and then we can go in here and we can adjust the amount of that black removal that we did. Okay. And this is where my white will print. Okay. So these are some of the cleanup tools that we have in the RIP. We also have color removal. So again, if we go to job or we just right click our production plugins, we have Knock Me Color Out. And to knock out the color is simple click. All you do is just click in the area of the color that you want to remove, and it'll automatically knock that out for you. There's no magic wand or anything you have to do. You just select that base color that you want to remove, and it'll get rid of it automatically. You can remove up to 4 different colors from a file. Okay, so if I wanted to print this blue logo on a yellow shirt, I can knock out that yellow. I can also simulate the shirt color here. So if I wanted to put this on, say, a gray shirt, okay, or if I wanted to put this on a green shirt, okay. If you know the exact RGB value for the shirt that you want to print on, you can actually put those values in and add it as a custom color. Okay, so if I wanted to put this on, turquoise shirt, okay. So this is the Knock Me Color Out tool. All right. Again, our black removal tool is simple. We go to our knock me black out, and it will automatically knock out the black. Okay. And in here, you can adjust the amount of underbase. So the lower the value you put, the more black removal we're applying, and we're basically taking that image and converting it into kind of a transparency. Okay, transparent. So as I make this higher, I get more opacity in the image. Okay, you also have your midtones that you can adjust in here, your transparency. You have a hard clip, so you can actually set a hard clip in here if you want, and the opacity. Okay. So if we click OK, it's going to go ahead and process that image. And it's going to go ahead and knock out the black. Okay, so this is our knock me out black. Okay. All right, next, this one here has a JPEG. So it's not a transparency. It has no transparent data. So typically you would have to go into Photoshop, knock out the background, save it as a PNG, and then import it into your RIP. Okay, now with our solution, you could just simply use the knock me color out tool to knock out that white, and it'll automatically knock it out. Okay. Now, if I were to go ahead and rip this file just as it is, when I go to preview it, and again, this is where the view raw data is quite powerful, I can actually see where my white is going to print. Now, if you notice, it's putting white over the entire image. Okay. So it's going to print this rectangle, this white rectangle, this white square with the image on it. I don't want that. Okay, I want to knock that out. So what I can do is come in here, open my page. And that's the other thing is once you've ripped the file and you need to modify it, okay, you don't have to delete it and re-import the file. You can just simply right click, click open page, and this will get you back to where you started. So what I would do is select it, knock out color, knocks out the white, click OK. If I go ahead and rip this file now, and then preview our data, and view all as black, okay, this is my white channel. Okay, so if I deselect everything here and then just select just the white channels only, okay. So there we go. Okay, it didn't flood it with white because I'm using my opaque color tab here. So what I actually want is, yeah, so what I have to do is open this, okay? And if you want to modify a print setting, you can do it a few ways. You can simply double click on the job. Oops. We could double click on the file, open the color layer, and here is where we can go in and modify our settings. So obviously I have 0 white under black. So that's why in the preview it only showed the outline of white and didn't show the black. So if I do this to that job and now rip it, when I go to preview it, it will show as a solid area when I look at the white channels. So if I go in here, deselect all, select my white channels, and view all as black, Okay, so now it fills it in. Okay, so I use the view raw data as kind of not necessarily a pre-flight for color, but more of a pre-flight to make sure that my white is going to print where it needs to. Okay, so view raw data is a very powerful tool to use. This way, so you're not wasting ink as well as film and time. Okay. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you here is some of the other filters we have. Excuse me. One that we have is our effects filters. So we actually have a really cool one here, which is our distressed filter. Okay, now this distress filter gives you that vintage look. Okay, so you get a lot of customers that want to have that vintage look of a graphic. Okay, and you can't do this easily with Photoshop. Okay, you either have to buy some sort of plug-in or filters or look for some kind of action tool or something like that that would do it. Okay, and typically it's just going to be a one action type thing or one type of filter. Okay, now we actually have the distressed filter built into the RIP. So we can go in here and we can adjust the tint color. We can adjust the mask. Okay, so you can adjust your preset mask. You could adjust the amount of texture that you want. Okay, we even have some preset textures. Okay, you can go in and create your own. Okay, you can generate the texture here. So the texture color, we can even change that. Say to a dark gray instead of black, or we can even change it to red, for instance. Okay, so we can do that. Okay, you can adjust the scaling. You can adjust the noise. Okay, so you've got a lot of really good tools here. You can adjust the horizontal streaks. You can add more or less. Okay. Okay, so that's our distress filter. The other one that I want to show you is our, actually I clicked OK, so it's going to go ahead and process that. So there we have. The other one I want to show you is distressed frames. Okay, so if we have distressed frames here. So if you don't want to print just a, if you're going to print this onto a white shirt, for instance, and you don't want just a square or rectangled image, you want to give it a little bit of flavor, you can adjust it the same way we did with the other distress tool. We could adjust our margins. Okay, contrast, texture, okay, border size, the erosion, frame size, okay, frame transition, okay. So we've got a lot of these different filters and tools that you can work with in the RIP under the jobs menu, okay, and if you have an effect that you don't want to use, for instance, this one, I can select the right mouse button and click Undo Plugin Effect, and it'll set my image back to the default setting. Okay. The next thing I want to show you are the print modes. So let's go ahead and I want to bring in my favorite image here for this demo, and it's a good old Iron Maiden. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this, create 3 additional images. Now this first one, I'm going to do as black opaque. Second one, we'll do rasterized. Third one, we'll do holes. And last one, we will do stripes. Okay. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and refresh the preview with these. And what we're going to show is the 4 different print modes that we have pre-programmed in the RIP. Okay. Now the first one is just basically an opaque print mode. This one is not going to apply any holes in the graphic at all. Now, when I go to print this, it's going to have more of that kind of transfer feel to it. More, I guess you can call it plasticky feel to it, more kind of like a screen printed image. Now, what I'll do is go ahead and rip all of these. And as you can see here, you can actually rip multiple files at the same time. Okay, you don't have to do one at a time. When you go to print, you do not have to print one at a time. You can send as many prints to the printer as you want. Okay, as long as you have your film loaded, should be no issue. Okay, so the first one here is our opaque image. So if I view the raw data, okay, if we view the raw data and then I view all as black, okay, this is going to print a nice solid white over the image area, over everything that's in the image area, okay? And again, when I press that, it's going to be nice and kind of punchy. The colors are going to be nice and bright. However, it's going to be a little thicker, okay? It's going to have a little bit thicker feel to it because of that, because we have the white and then your full CMYK. Okay. The next one is our rasterized. Now this one, this particular print mode, the black removal, we did a very aggressive black removal to almost convert the image into kind of a transparency. So if we look at the difference between this image, how it's nice and bright, and then this one, you notice that this one's not as bright in these areas. So if we go here and then here, okay. However, when we do this, the rasterization is going to give me holes from the light to dark areas. Okay, so white being no print, no holes, and then dark being the bigger dots. Okay, and it's going to be a variable dot. So if I view all as white as black, okay, now this one is going to give me those variable sized holes. Okay, so this one's going to give me those variable size holes throughout the image. Okay, the white, which is the text, is going to be solid. Okay, and as we go towards the black, the holes get bigger and bigger until we get to what we call no ink, the no ink area. Okay, right, so here we have the variable dots. That's our rasterized mode. Now the next one is our rasterized with holes. Now if we view this one's going to have the same size dot throughout the image. And in the areas of transparency, where the transparency is, it's going to have variable dots. So in some of the areas in this image, in the opaque areas like up here, all the dots are the same size. However, in the areas of the transparency, like the backgrounds here, we have the variable dots being placed. Okay, so this is the rasterized with holes. And then if we go to rasterize with stripes, and view this one, and again, as you can see, the view raw data does have a very unique feature in viewing all of this. Okay, this is the data that's going to get sent to the printer. So if we view it, you can see now that I have my lines in here. Now, how do I control my halftone? Okay, I can control it. Let me go ahead and open the page. Open page. Open page and open page. All right, so I'm going to go here to my rasterized print mode. Okay, so what I've done here in the rasterized print mode, we have the Knock Me Blackout automatically applied. Okay, so when you import an image using that print mode, it's going to automatically remove the black. Now, the black removal is very aggressive. Normally, the value we use is 70, which the holes and stripe uses a value of 70. But what we want is, with this particular effect, we want kind of that variable halftone. So what we're doing is, in essence, converting our image into more or less a transparency. And in doing so, what I've done is I've bumped up my color boost. Okay, the color boost is going to affect the color in the transparency. Now, if I'm converting my entire image as a transparent type image, I want to boost those colors. Okay, so when I go to print it, I don't lose anything. Okay, under the printer options, okay, we've got our print options here for that print mode. Okay. This is our color curve, and again, we don't want to go in here and touch these. Neither the halftones. Okay, these halftones are based on the Epson head halftones. Okay. So how do we adjust the halftone dots? Okay, so here's where we do it. We call it ink removal. Okay, so this is what we call, in the DTF market, people call it halftoning. Okay, we call it ink removal because what we're in essence doing is removing ink to create those effects. Okay, so in the print world, this makes more sense. In the design world, it's halftoning. Okay, now in here, we can adjust the frequency any way we like. Okay, so we can adjust the frequency to whatever we want. Okay, typically between 30 and 50 should be sufficient. You can set the angle that you want the hole to be placed, and you can select the shape. Okay, we have 23 different shapes to choose from. Okay, so you've got round, inverted round, diamond, elliptical, line is your stripe, dot, squares, dither, tri-dot, variable. Okay, so you could go in here and get pretty unique patterns. Now, the hole size, okay, 255 means that you're going to place in that pixel 100% ink. Okay, so each pixel is 255 points. Okay, so we'd leave this at 100%, and then the hole size in the transparency is in those transparent areas. We can adjust that any way we like. We can make them smaller or bigger. Okay, this is the default, and to be honest, the default should be sufficient. Okay, now if we look at the rasterize with holes setting, okay, you notice everything is pretty much the same with the exception of the hole size. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm saying, okay, in this pixel, okay, I want 180 dots in this area and not 255. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to create holes. Now, what I'll do is I'm going to take this image, and what we'll do is we will change the hole size. So I'm going to duplicate this. Now this one was at 180. Oh, excuse me. Don't want that one. I want this one with holes. Duplicate. Yeah, do that. No, we'll go there. All right. So on the second image, I'm going to change the hole size to something else. So we'll go in here and we'll do, say, 240 or 220 and click OK. Okay, so the only difference here is one is at 180 and one is at 220, but the angle and the frequency is identical. But as you'll see here, we get two different effects. Now, the advantage of adding holes gives you better washability, a softer touch, and in some cases, some cool effects. I do not recommend using the holes feature for photographs. If you do, you will be not impressed. On photos such as people, doesn't look good. The holes actually look a lot better on graphics such as this, you know, the concert tees and things like that. But if we go in and view the raw data, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put these two next to each other. And we'll go to the other one here. Close that. Drop that here, and let me go back here. All right, so if we view both of these, okay, you'll notice that this one has the holes, this one's at 180, and then this one is, all right, where do we go here? I'm gonna get it to look the same here. Yeah, this one's close. And this one here. All right, so here they're pretty close as far as the size goes, or the positioning. All right, so as you notice, the holes here are much closer together. Okay, so this is the 220 and this is the 180. Okay, so you can get some different effects with your files. Okay. And again, you can change the hole size and so forth as you see fit. Okay, and doing so, you can actually go into your print modes and you can actually create custom print modes. So if you wanted to change the frequency, for instance, I could take this one, for instance, copy this print mode, and say I want my frequency to be 30 and angle 52, for instance. I'll just drop that in there. I'll go ahead and open this print mode. What did I say? 30 and 52. 30 and 52. Okay. Maybe I want to change the shape. We'll say maybe Euclidean round. Say save. Okay. I'll go ahead and open the page to release the rip that was processed. And you notice I have my print mode here. I'll select it. I'll rip that file. Let it go through. Yeah, we're running a little late here, but we'll be done here in about 10 minutes or so. And now I can actually go in with a different angle and frequency to get a different look. Okay, again, if I view all as black, actually gives me a kind of a better look at how the holes are going to be placed. Okay, so again, this is the way you can customize your own halftone for your printer. And again, in the print modes, you can create as many print modes as you want, as your heart desires. Now, when you've created print modes and you want to save them, okay, I highly recommend exporting any print modes that you create yourself. So if I've created, these two print modes, I want to save those because if I update my driver or update the software later on, You want to make sure these are backed up because during the update process, there is a possibility that these can be overwritten. So in here, you could create a print mode package. So if I click there, create print mode package, I can go in here, L1800, and we'll go here, raster, for instance. Okay, and go in here, export those. So now if I go in and delete these, oh, it's not going to delete the other one because it's in use. All right, so now if I go in here and select that, I can delete it. All right, so now I've deleted those print modes. So if I, for some reason, update the driver and these got wiped out, I can simply go in here, go to my desktop, select my print mode, click OK. There they are, and import those back in, and now I have them available to me. Okay. The other thing we have with the driver, okay, is we have this printer status menu. Okay, in here we can program cleaning cycles for your printer. Okay, so we all know in DTF, you know, they say shake the cartridges, run a cleaning cycle to recycle the ink in the heads and the dampers. Now in here we can go ahead and program a cleaning cycle. So we can program it, you know, every 5 hours, for instance. All right, we can perform it now. We can even add maintenance dialogues here. So maybe, you know, every 4 hours or every 8 hours, maybe, I can say shake tank and shake ink tank. So every 8 hours, I'll get a message on my screen that will pop up and it'll be a maintenance screen saying shake the ink tank, or whatever you put in here. Okay, so you could actually add in your own maintenance dialogues to the printer. Okay, you can also check the printer settings and status. So let me go back in here and set my port again, so that way I could talk to it. If I click on printer status and settings, now if it's a printer that uses cartridges with chips, here it will show your ink levels. If you're using an ink tank printer, it's not going to show you. Okay, but here you can do your nozzle check and you can do your head clean from here. Depending on the driver, we may even have the head maintenance, like bidirectional, what have you, adjustments from this utility. Okay, but in this case, for the 1800, we have the nozzle check and head clean from within the software. Okay, you don't have to go to, you know, your control panel printers and do that. We also have our costing tool. Now our costing tool, you can add in your material cost. Surface treatment, I typically use the cost of the powder for that. And I try to break it down as, you know, best I can to try to create a value for that. And then you have your ink cost. The ink contingency is to compensate for those cleaning cycles, the maintenance and so forth. And typically I recommend anywhere from 5 to 10% ink contingency to add to the cost. Okay, so you're adding this to your overall cost of doing business. You can also add in your labor costs, your taxes, as well as your markup. Okay, so you can add all that in. Okay, so that way when you bring in your image, and we'll go ahead and do this one. Okay, so if we bring in the image, okay, bring it in, we've got our image here. If I go ahead and rip the file, here will show my job cost. All right, now with the job cost, okay, so this particular A3 page, yeah, so this is an A3, this image here on an A3 page is going to use about 95 cents worth of ink, but that's also including the powder, and it's taking into account your cleaning cycle. So your actual print is probably much less than that. You're probably looking maybe 60 cents, 75 cents maybe. Okay. Now, if you select the job, if you select your file and click on the costing tool again, it'll bring up another ticket. Now, this one is actually going to show you the actual ink usage for that job. Okay. So it's actually going to show you how much ink was used as far as black, white, cyan, magenta, your CMYK white. Okay, it's going to show you that. Plus, it's going to count that ink contingency. So it's counting, 2 cents for the ink contingency. If you add in your labor costs and so forth, that'll be showed up here as well. And you can export this data as a CSV file. So if you wanted to keep track of your costs, you can do so. Okay. Now, a couple of other unique tools that we have in our RIP, and I'll show you these quickly. I won't go into too much detail on them. That we could definitely cover in a different class, but we do have hot folder support. Okay. Now, hot folders are very unique in that if you have, say, a shop and you have the printer in an office and the design in the front office or upstairs or what have you, and you're on a network and you want to send jobs to the RIP instead of having to copy them to a pen drive or all that, what you can do is you can enable hot folders and you can simply send the file over to that hot folder. Okay, so you can save it to that hot folder, and if the hot folder is active, our RIP will automatically bring it into the queue. Okay, it'll automatically bring it in. We also have template hot folders, and I can show you how to set up a template here in a second. Your media setup. Okay, so you have your fixed sheet media, your template media, and if the printer supports roll feed, you'll have roll feed as well. Okay. Your layout manager. Okay. So this is what's going to happen when you import the file. So here we already have the queue set up to mirror the job on import. We have it set by default to center top. We have it scaling down only if it's larger. Okay. You have your scheduling options, so you can actually set the queue to hold the job. So when you import the job, it does nothing. You could set it up to rip and then print later, or you can even set up a queue to where you configure it to a specification that you like, to where you already know that it's just going to rip and print. You can set that to rip and print automatically. We can also rip now, print later on barcode, as well as rip and print on barcode. Okay, so our software also has the capability of working with barcodes. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that up real quick. Rip and print on barcode. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and get rid of this file. And I'll bring in my samples here. Okay, so this is going to be my rip and print with barcode. Now, to use this, basically what I've done is I've created a catalog. So if you notice, you have the image files here, the names, and I've created a catalog which has the file name, don't need the extension, just the file name, and then that file name converted into a barcode. You can use online tools such as Bartender to create a barcode. So if I had a kiosk or storefront with preset designs, I can actually create a catalog where a customer can come in and say, look, I want this image here, the lizard. I can say, okay, perfect. If I have that job in the queue already, set up in the queue, I can use a barcode scanner to scan that job and print it. So the barcode scanner can be any scanner, a 2D scanner, 3D scanner, what have you. Now, the first step is that we have to register the barcode scanner. So you'll hear beep here. So what you do is you scan the barcode 3 times. And if I wanted to print the lizard file, I'm just going to scan that file And you notice it's going to go ahead and go to the rip and print. Now I'm going to abort that because I have the printer set up to the port and I don't want to print anything. So we'll go ahead and close that for now. But now we can go back and this will go through the whole rip and the print process. Okay, if I have another image, I can do that. Right? So this is working basically off of a catalog. Okay, and the beauty of our rip is that you can actually tie this into some front end ordering systems. So if you have a front end ordering system where a customer places an order online, it creates the file. That file gets placed in a hot folder, okay, which you can create in the rip. And if the order prints out a template or a thumbnail with that barcode, you can use that, scan it, and it'll go off to the printer and print. Okay, so a very unique tool that we do offer within the rip. Okay, so that's our barcode feature. Okay, going back to our print media, we can also set up templates. So let me go ahead and close this out. Q. Let's go back in here. And I will go ahead and reset my layout manager. All right. All right, so what I can do is I can go to my media manager and I can set up templates. Okay, so I'm going to set up a template here of 10 by 10 centimeter squares. And I'm going to base this off, a 13 by 19 sheet. All right, so we'll go ahead and click add, put in my values, and 0.5. I could set my scaling. I can do scale to fit always. You could set a rotation. You can set the alignment. The mirroring, we don't need to mirror because we have the queue already set up to mirror. And there we go. And then I could go here to my auto slots placement. And in here, I can fill the page. So I can do something like this. And I can either have it incremental or I can have them all the same. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll say all the same. Click OK. Now you notice it puts them here. And what I can do is if I want to kind of center it on the page, I can jog all the slots. To get kind of centered on the page. There we go. And we'll go ahead and click save. So I'll go ahead and call this same and click save. So now on my list, I have this 10 by 10 same. So we'll go ahead and click OK. Now to use that template, I'll go in here to my media setup and select template media. Select my template I want to use. So again, you can create a queue that's configured for templates and have another queue set up for pages. So we'll go here, view single page, fit, and we'll go ahead and import this image here. Okay, and this will go ahead and fill in our template with that image. Okay, so again, I can go in here, select a different image if I want. We'll select this one. Okay, and that'll fill all those in. Okay, so we make it very easy to work with templates. If you're doing multiple images, you can set up the template to be incremental. So if we go back to our media setup and go back in here, actually, what I'll do is I'm just going to go ahead and change this one. We'll call this Actually, no, we'll create a new one. So we'll create a new template, again, 10 by 10. Again, we'll do it off the 13 by 19 page size. Again, 10 by 10. And that we'll leave there. Scale to fit, center, save, auto slots placement, increment, click OK. We'll jog the slots. And save. And close here. All right, so now if I switch this to the multi and I bring in multiple images, let's see, how many images do I have here? So I got 12. Okay, so this will actually go ahead and bring in those images at a specific size. Okay, so this is how we can use templates as well within our RIP. Okay. Now, the last thing I wanted to go over before we finish up here and open it up to some questions, let's go back to sheet media. There we go. All right, so the last thing I want to do here is go over one more thing here is our color replacement tool. Okay, so what we have is we have a tool that we use to replace colors. So we'll go ahead and open this particular file, which is our color replacement tool. So if we go here to the job color replacement, okay, we can change this background color. All right. Okay, so with this, I can sample the color. Okay, so this is using 1.6 of magenta and 100% white, or yellow, I'm sorry. So I sample that, and then I want to change the color. So I'm going to do 100 magenta, 100 yellow, okay, to give us a red. I'm going to add that. It's going to load it here. Go ahead and click apply. And if I go here to my color replacement preview, should give me my red. Yeah, I probably should have set my page size for A4 so it doesn't process as long. But as you can see here, I've changed the color and now I've got a nice red. Okay, so as you're working with files, if you know the CMYK value that you want to use, okay, or if you have an RGB value converted to CMYK and you want to use a specific value, color value, you can certainly use the job color replacement to replace that color in the job, okay, at any time. So that's our color removal tool. Okay, so that kind of covers everything in our RIP. All right, the last thing I wanted to go over is our compass. Okay, if you guys have not used Compass, okay, Compass is our interactive user manual. Okay, how does it work? Okay, as I'm clicking through the software here, you'll notice that Compass also switches through. So if I go to my cues, it's going to come over here to show me how my cues are set up. If I go to manage print modes and go to the print mode here, okay, it's going to go through and show me my print modes. Okay. If I open up the print mode, go in here, okay, so it's going to cover all the settings of the printer, so forth. And a lot of times we'll have bonus documents, we have links to videos. Now, don't worry if the videos are not DTF specific, okay? Our RIP, okay, this is the RIP. This particular interface is the exact same whether it's DTG, sublimation, print, UV, what have you. This particular interface and all the tools that we offer, okay, so all the Q tools and all of the job tools that we offer are all identical. The only difference between, say, the DTF product and our DTG product is going to be the driver and your print modes. Okay, those are the only differences. Everything else is pretty much identical. So the thing we like to say is if you know one, you'll know them all. Okay, so, and this holds true. If you
All right, guys, there you have it. That's all that CADlink have to offer, and I think they're going to continue making more improvement to the software. And we are so excited to see that implementation and changes happen to the software. I know that a couple of a couple of days, they release a new update that also, if you download that from our website, is going to be the last update for that. But yeah, again, guys, if you got any questions about CADlink, if we know the answer for that, if I know the answer for that, just put it in the comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and share this video of knowledge guide with other people that are into DTF printing, and also your friends that want to learn a little bit more about this. All right, as always, guys, my name is Josh from Kingdom DTF. Until the next video, keep printing. All right.